The dragon woman stared at the human across the scorched hangar floor, the embers of her breath casting molten reflections across the metal tiles. She towered 7 feet tall, crimson scales glinting like armor plates, pupils sharp as a hawk's strike. Her wings were folded, but the tension in her stance was unmistakable. Commander Elias Rourke didn't flinch. He was a man carved from the battlefield, gray at the temples, jawline squared by too many years spent shouting orders through exploding hulls. His uniform bore scorch marks where plasma had kissed him but failed to kill him. His prosthetic arm whirred softly as he leaned forward on the crate between them. "I have 1 year left," Rourke said, voice calm, gravelly, and carrying the finality of a death sentence. "Just 1. The medics confirmed it yesterday." The dragon woman's nostrils flared. "And you summoned me, the disgraced princess of the Viedrak Dominion, to tell me this? What do you want, human?" Rourke cracked a grim smile. "Give me an heir," he said. "And the hangar, this entire outpost, will be yours." Her wings twitched. "You must be delirious. Why would a human soldier want a half-dragon offspring? Why come to me? Why offer your last strategic base to an enemy royal?" Rourke leaned back, letting the silence thicken like smoke. "Because no human alive hates your empire more than I do, and no one understands vengeance better than a Viedrak royal." She opened her mouth to retort, but the warning sirens blared. Rourke didn't even look back. "They're early." The ceiling shook as an explosion rippled across the sky above the hangar. Metal groaned. Dust rained down. A second blast shook the foundations. The princess hissed. "My people?" "No," Rourke said with grim satisfaction. "Mine." He gestured to the hollow screen blinking to life. A massive shadow eclipsed the horizon, a human dreadnought, the USS Forlorn Hope, a ship supposedly gutted and decommissioned decades ago. Except it wasn't. Rourke had spent 30 years, his entire pension, and 3 black market cybernetic upgrades secretly restoring it. And now it hovered like a titan reborn. The dragon woman stared, stunned. "That ship should not exist." "That's the idea." The hangar doors shattered inward as a platoon of armored human marines stormed inside, rifles ready, but their eyes were fixed on Rourke for orders. He waved them off. "At ease. She's not the target." The marines lowered their weapons but remained tense. Nobody relaxed around dragons, especially ones trained in royal combat arts. The princess bristled. "If not me, then who?" Rourke pointed upward. "The Dominion scout fleet that followed you here. They think you're defecting." Her scales paled. "They'll kill you to erase the shame," Rourke continued. "And then they'll sterilize this entire moon just for the paperwork." The disbelief in her eyes flickered into realization. "You saved me?" He shrugged. "Don't thank me. I need you alive." Another explosion rocked the hangar. This time, closer. The lights flickered. The sound of metal shrieking echoed like tortured whale song. Rourke stood, his shadow cast long across the rattling floor. "Your kin don't understand humans, princess. They think we break when pushed." He turned toward the hangar doors. "They don't realize we evolve." He activated his comlink. "Forlorn Hope, fire on my mark." The dragon woman spread her wings in alarm. "If you fire now, you'll bring the entire Dominion fleet down on this moon." "Oh, they're already on the way," Rourke replied. "But I didn't fix that ship to run." His cybernetic eye flickered. "I fixed it to end things." The hangar roof peeled open as the dreadnought repositioned, its cannons glowing. The enemy scout ships descended like hornets, screaming through the atmosphere. Rourke raised his hand. A plasma bolt slammed into the ground beside him. He didn't move. "Mark!" the Forlorn Hope roared. A beam of pure white light cleaved the sky, atomizing the first wave of Dominion ships in a single, merciless blast. Shockwaves rippled outward. Firestorms ignited in the upper atmosphere. The very air shook. The dragon princess staggered backward, stunned, speechless. Rourke cracked his neck. "They wanted a war? Fine. They can have one." "You're insane," she whispered. "Probably." He faced her again. But I meant what I said. I have a year left. And one last plan. She folded her wings slowly, cautiously. A plan that involves an heir? Rourke nodded. The Dominion fears hybrid offspring. They think blending species dilutes royal bloodlines. Weakens empires. He smirked. But humans? We see opportunity. Another explosion thundered overhead, but neither of them looked. Rourke's voice grew low, serious. I want someone who can inherit this war when I'm gone. Someone who can burn both our enemies' maps and write their own. The princess's tail coiled, a gesture of deep contemplation in her culture. You would give me an entire hangar, weapons, personnel, all for a child who might not even be fully accepted by your people. Rourke snorted. My people stopped caring about purity the day the stars tried to kill us. We adapt. We survive. And when someone tries to erase us, he pointed at the burning sky. We teach them why humanity crawled out of the mud in the first place. A chunk of flaming Dominion debris slammed to the ground outside the hangar, painting everything in hellish orange. The princess lowered her gaze. You want a legacy? A living weapon? A symbol? I want someone who can finish what I started. And what is that, human? Rourke stepped close, his face inches from hers, unafraid. To make sure your empire never underestimates my species again. Her throat vibrated, not a growl, but a sound of conflicted respect. Outside, the forlorn hope fired again. A second sun blossomed overhead. The ground trembled. The war officially began. And deep in that flaming dawn, the Dragon Princess answered quietly. Very well, Commander Rourke. I accept your offer. Rourke's smile was weary, but victorious. The moon shook under the wrath of two empires about to collide. And inside an old, half-ruined hangar, an alliance impossible yesterday was forged today. In fire, vengeance, and the desperate, relentless will of humanity. The first Dominion bombardment hit like a fist from the heavens. A shockwave slammed through the hangar, knocking tools, crates, and half-melted armor plating into the air. The ground trembled beneath Rourke's boots. Dust poured from the ceiling like ancient snow. The dragon woman reacted faster than instinct. She grabbed Rourke by the front of his jacket and yanked him behind a collapsed girder just as the second blast turned the hangar doors into molten slag. For a moment, the world became fire. Then silence. A heavy, suffocating silence filled with burning metal, Rourke's labored breathing, and the slow crackle of a ruin becoming more ruined. Rourke coughed hard, wiping soot from his lips. Feels like a warm welcome. The dragon woman didn't return the humor. Her golden eyes glowed bright in the smoke. They didn't come for a welcome. They came for a corpse. Mine! She released him and stood to her full height, wings unfurling just enough to shake off the falling embers. Her silhouette was monstrous, regal, and furious all at once. Rourke leaned on his metal cane, not from fear, just because he was too stubborn to die before the timetable allowed. You said your people would assume treason if I summoned you, she growled softly. I did not expect them to react this fast. Oh, they didn't, Rourke said, pushing himself upright. They'd been tracking you since you defected to meet me. They were waiting. Watching. Her breath steamed with rage. Let me guess. You knew they'd come. Princess, Rourke said, patting her arm as if she was simply annoyed rather than homicidally furious. You don't bait a dragon without expecting a few scorching talons. A shadow passed overhead. Both of them looked up. A Dominion assault frigate, the size of a small city block, swept low over the hangar, its hull bristling with plasma lances. Its engines glowed a sickly violet, the signature color of the Viedrak Royal Fleet. Crown-class warship, the princess whispered. My mother sent her personal guard. Rourke raised an eyebrow. Mommy's upset, huh? You don't understand, she snapped. My mother is the matriarch of the Dominion. Her guard doesn't take prisoners. They take bloodlines. Well, Rourke said, rotating his metal arm to check for damage. Good thing that's exactly what we plan to mess with. She glared down at him. Do not make light of this. My mother will burn this moon to ash to prevent me from returning with scandal. Or an heir. Rourke shrugged. Then we don't return. She blinked. What? We don't go back to your dominion. Or my alliance. He jerked a thumb at the massive steel sarcophagus of dormant warframes behind him. We go below. Another explosion rocked the hangar. The frigate had begun carving trenches through the moon's crust. The princess hissed. Below what? My bunker, Rourke replied, tapping a floor plate with his cane. 2 miles beneath us. Shielded. Hidden. Built to survive a direct solar flare. She stared at him as if he'd grown a second head. You dug out a fortress under a frontier moon? No, he smirked. I inherited it. How? Humanity has a long, proud tradition of hiding things the government told us to dismantle. The plate beneath them hissed. Locking mechanisms disengaged. The ground split open to reveal a descending platform. A faint, steady blue light glowed from below. She blinked again. Dragons didn't blink often. You planned this entire scenario, from the summons to my arrival, to their attack? Of course not. She narrowed her gaze suspiciously. He continued, I planned 3 scenarios. This is the one with the least screaming. Her wings twitched. Least? A blast punched through the ceiling, smashing a war frame into the opposite wall like a child's toy. Rourke gestured. Ladies first. She did not move. If I go below with you, I implicate myself in your defiance. I sever my royal bloodline. I betrayed the Dominion. Already did when you came here, Rourke said. She snarled, but he raised a finger. And I betray the Alliance by summoning you. He continued. Mutual treason is a powerful foundation. Another blast shook the moon. A massive chunk of roof collapsed, smashing into the hangar floor and sending up a cloud of debris. The princess grabbed Rourke's collar and jumped onto the platform. If you're lying, human, I'll cut out your spine and use it as a drinking straw. That's the most romantic thing anyone said to me all year. She shoved him against the railing and hit the descent control rune. The platform plunged downward. The deeper they sank, the calmer the world became. The bombardment faded into distant thunder. The light steadied. The smoke thinned. The air even tasted different, clean, recycled, controlled. Rourke exhaled long and slow. Phew. I thought I'd have to drag you down here kicking and screaming. Do not mistake acceptance for trust, she said. I agreed to your bargain. I did not agree to your lunacy. You'll get used to it. No, she growled. I don't think I will. He chuckled. She studied him. Your condition, does it hurt? Every day, Rourke admitted. And you still fight? Lady, he said, smiling faintly. Humans invented fighting because dying is boring. She didn't understand the humor, but she respected the defiance. After several minutes, the platform docked with a cavernous underground chamber. Doors slid open. The bunker revealed itself in full. Walls of steel plating. Reinforced blast shutters. Laboratories. Cryobays. And at the far end, an armory that could overthrow a small star system. The dragon woman inhaled sharply. This is not a bunker. This is a throne room. Maybe one day, Rourke muttered. For our kid. She stiffened. Speak of that again, and I'll throw you into the reactor. Don't threaten me with a good time. Her tail lashed in irritation. He hobbled to a console and activated the bunker's shielding. A sphere of shimmering energy expanded outward like a burning bubble, sealing them off from the bombardment above. Dominion blasts thudded against the shield like fists hitting the walls of a tomb. The princess stared at the glowing barrier, then at Rourke. They will not stop. I know. They will hunt us until the stars go cold. I know that too. They will never allow a hybrid heir. Rourke's voice softened, just once. That's why we're going to stop asking for permission. She fell silent. Then, reluctantly. What now, human? Rourke tapped the console again. Screens lit up. The bunker hummed louder. Ancient machinery stirred. Now, he said. Now we get to work. On what? He smiled. Building a future worth terrifying the galaxy with. The princess stared at him long enough for the bunker lights to flicker over her brown scales. Then, slowly, she nodded. And above them, the Dominion burned the moon half to hell, not realizing the real war had just begun beneath their feet. The Dominion bombardment pounded the moon so hard the bunker walls vibrated like a giant drum, but Rourke ignored the tremors. He limped through the bunker corridors with grim purpose, the dragon woman following close behind, wings nearly scraping the ceiling. The place was a labyrinth of human stubbornness, corridors reinforced with tungsten, vault doors thicker than most starship hulls, and machines built by engineers who didn't understand the word overkill. The princess noticed the pattern. This entire facility, she said, eyes narrowing as she surveyed another room filled with racks of weapons, was designed for a war your superiors didn't authorize. Rourke snorted. My superiors can barely authorize a coffee machine. Every time humanity survives extinction, it's because some idiot like me builds something without asking permission. She tilted her head. You speak like a rebel. I've been called worse. They entered a cylindrical chamber filled with towering machines, exosets lined up in glass pods, each wired into a humming neural core. The princess paused, intrigued despite herself. These warframes are not like the ones in the hangar above. Prototypes, Rourke confirmed. Never tested. Too dangerous. Too unpredictable. Too human, she muttered. He grinned. Exactly. She stepped closer to one of the pods. A humanoid figure, 10 feet tall, forged from alloy that gleamed like polished thunder, stood inside, dormant but undeniably alive in its own way. Its face was a smooth mask of metal. Its spine bristled with power conduits. Its fists were large enough to crush a rhino's skull. You designed these? She asked. Rourke shrugged. Half designed. Half improvised. I let the machine learning cores fill in the blanks. Humans are good at that, letting chaos get us results. Her jaw tightened. Chaos is sacrilege in the Dominion. Order builds empires. Order builds empires, Rourke corrected. Chaos destroys the ones that need destroying. She turned to him sharply. You want to destroy mine. He met her eyes without blinking. Not destroy. Change. Break the cycle. Give it something it doesn't know how to categorize. And that something is a child, Rourke said simply. She looked away, but she didn't deny it. All of this, she whispered, for an heir you will not live to see. That's the point. He coughed, hard this time, and touched the wall for balance. If I were going to be here to guide them, train them, this would all be simpler. But life rarely gives us simple. She studied him quietly. Dragon's senses were sharp. She could hear his heartbeat stuttering, smell the metallic tang of unstable organs, see the faint glow of radiation poisoning in his arteries. You will not last a year, she said softly, not as an accusation, but as observation. No, he admitted. But I'll last long enough. For what? Plan B. She tilted her head. There is a plan B? Princess, he said, waving a hand dismissively. There's a plan A through plan H. Humanity doesn't leave things to chance. That's what our politicians do. Before she could ask, the bunker shook again, this time deeper. A red alarm flashed across the ceiling. She spread her wings in warning. That was not orbital fire. No, Rourke agreed grimly. That was the Dominion landing troops. The princess snarled. My mother's guard doesn't waste time. Neither do I. He tapped a nearby console. A holographic display flickered to life, showing the moon's surface. Multiple heat signatures were closing in on the bunker entrance. But one was different. A massive shape, winged, four-legged, and glowing from within, descended from the Dominion frigate. She recognized it instantly. Her blood ran cold. Tyrant-class Siege Drake, she whispered. My mother's personal execution beast. Rourke raised a brow. And I thought you were big. This is no time for humor, human, she snapped. That creature is bioengineered to tear apart fortresses. We must evacuate. Rourke shook his head. Can't. They'll track us anywhere on the moon. Then what do you propose? We fight. She stared. You intend to face a siege drake with what? A cane and terminal stubbornness? Rourke grinned. Now you're getting it. He limped to a console and slammed his metal fist onto a glowing panel. Sirens blared. The glass pods around them hissed as the exosuits activated. One by one, their eyes glowed like newborn stars. The princess watched in awe. These are not warframes, she whispered. These are titans. No, Rourke corrected. These are prototypes. Titans are the ones that didn't explode when we turned them on. Her wings folded flat against her back. You want to pilot these? Nope. He pointed at her. You do. Her entire body went rigid. You would entrust me with such power? I need the Dominion to feel the embarrassment personally, he said. Nothing hurts an empire like seeing its own royal bloodline tearing through its elite troops. And you? She asked. What will you do? Rourke tapped his prosthetic arm. Plan B. She narrowed her eyes. If your plan B involves dying dramatically so I can escape. Oh, I'll die dramatically, he said, stepping toward a smaller pod in the center of the room. But you'll be very surprised at the how. She reached out a claw, catching his shoulder. Rourke, if you die before the Heir is. He covered her hand with his metal one. Princess, he said quietly, humanity doesn't define fatherhood by blood or time. If the kid exists, my work's done. Her throat tightened, a rare display of emotion dragons usually crushed under centuries of discipline. Fine, she said. I will fight. But not for your vengeance. Good. I will fight for the child. Rourke's smile was small, weary, proud. That's all I wanted. A deafening roar echoed from above. The siege drake had reached the bunker entrance. The ground trembled. Metal buckled. Rourke stepped into the smaller pod. The door sealed shut around him. Rourke, she growled through the glass. What are you doing? Preparing. For what? He winked. For scaring the living hell out of your mother. The pod filled with shimmering white light. The exosuits powered on. The siege drake bellowed a challenge that shook the bunker walls. And deep beneath a bleeding moon, a dying human and an exiled dragon princess prepared for the fight that would decide the fate of two empires, and the future of a child not yet born. The siege drake slammed against the bunker doors like a hammer against steel, sending shockwaves rippling through every corridor. The dragon woman's claws scraped along the deck as she prepared the warframe, her tail coiling with controlled fury. The exosuit thrummed beneath her, neural interfaces syncing with her thoughts faster than her own heartbeat. She could feel the raw, brutal power coursing through her, human technology and draconic might fused into a weapon the Dominion had never imagined. Rourke's pod opened nearby, revealing him strapped into a smaller, sleeker exosuit, wires wrapping around his prosthetic arm. He grinned at her through the reinforced glass, eyes glittering with a dangerous mix of exhaustion and excitement. Time to show them what humans do when cornered, he said, voice metallic and ragged. She didn't answer. Words were meaningless now. The warframe roared as she leapt toward the broken ceiling, shattering debris flying as she vaulted above the entrance. Her wings extended just long enough to brace for impact as she crashed through the bunker's reinforced exterior, landing atop the siege drake like a predator descending from the heavens. The Dominion troops froze, mouths open, when the dragon woman in a human warframe tore through their front line. Plasma lances screamed. Explosions turned the battlefield into molten chaos. Every movement she made, claws, wings, warframe cannons, was a calculation of terror. Every strike demolished decades of Dominion engineering. Below, Rourke moved like a shadow, his smaller exosuit weaving between fissures and falling debris. He targeted the siege drake's neuroports, launching magnetic grappling hooks and microplasma disruptors that pulsed in sync with the beast's heartbeat. Sparks erupted, scales cracked, and the creature roared, thrashing wildly. The battlefield became a storm of fire, metal, and roaring fury, the first time the Dominion realized they had severely underestimated humanity. The princess moved closer to the beast's head, her war frame emitting a high-pitched, resonant pulse that scrambled its neural network. The siege drake fell to its knees, smoke rising from its joints. Rourke vaulted from a collapsing wall, landing behind the beast, and drove a pulse lance into its spine. A deafening shriek echoed as the creature collapsed, writhing in metallic agony before finally going still. The silence that followed was almost unbearable. Then, from the horizon, Dominion frigates faltered. Their satellites went dark. A vast wave of human-controlled warframes emerged from the hidden bunkers across the moon, all activated remotely, all trained on the invading fleet. Entire squadrons of Dominion soldiers found themselves outmatched not by sheer numbers, but by cunning strategy, unexpected weapons, and the brutal audacity of humanity, a species the Dominion had long assumed was predictable and primitive. The dragon woman finally stepped down from the wreckage of the siege drake, her war frame smoking but functional. She looked to Rourke, who was already limping toward her, arms wide as if to embrace the chaos he had orchestrated. That was insane, she muttered, lacing her roar. You've turned a massacre into a masterpiece. Rourke coughed, leaning heavily on his prosthetic arm. Humans are dangerous when you think we're dying. We get creative. He grinned, blood streaking his temple. Especially when we've got a deadline. She looked at him, her expression unreadable, and then slowly, almost imperceptibly, nodded. And the child? Survives, Rourke said, placing a hand over hers. If the child is half human, half dragon, it'll inherit the stubbornness, the cunning, and the ability to scare the galaxy. She finally allowed herself a smile, one that was feral, proud, and perhaps just a little amused. Then we are truly allies. More than allies, he corrected, voice dropping low. Partners in terror. The Dominion fleet, shattered, retreated under the shadow of an unstoppable, unprecedented alliance. And as the smoke cleared over the moon, the exocets, silent now, their work done, stood like monuments to human ingenuity and audacity. The princess looked over the wreckage and for the first time, considered what a hybrid heir might mean, not just for revenge, but for a galaxy that had underestimated humanity for far too long. Rourke leaned against the smoldering wall, chest heaving. I'm out of time, he muttered. She turned sharply. Then, what happens now? He smiled faintly, a mixture of pain, pride, and defiance shining through the grime on his face. Now we let the child carry on. My work ends, but the nightmare for your empire is just beginning. She studied him. You die knowing your vengeance is complete? I die knowing humanity reminded everyone what we do when cornered, he said. And that sometimes, the most terrifying weapon isn't a fleet, a bomb, or a gun. It's a species that refuses to quit. He coughed again, leaning heavily on his cane. The dragon woman stepped closer, placing a clawed hand over his, their fingers locking. Then you will not be forgotten, human. Rourke's grin was weak but defiant. Good. Because if they forget, we'll remind them. The moon shook once more, not from Dominion fire, but from the echoes of human brilliance, tenacity, and sheer audacity. Somewhere, deep in the shadows of the galaxy, a hybrid heir waited, destined to inherit not just a legacy of war, but the terrifying genius of a species that refused to be underestimated. And as the last Dominion cruiser limped away, the dragon woman looked to Rourke, eyes blazing. You truly are humanity incarnate. I've had practice, he said, voice fading as the years caught up to him. And we're just getting started. In the bunker beneath the scarred moon, the seeds of revenge, ingenuity, and unstoppable legacy were planted. The galaxy would never see it coming. And humanity, ragged, dying, defiant, smiled.